Rick Want.
Here.
And Wes Ryan.
Here.
Please stand for a pledge of allegiance.
To the flag, States of America. Indivisible. Justice for all.
Thank you all for coming this evening and for tuning in both on cable and through the internet. If council will allow me, before I go to public comments, I'm going to try a little something different, and that's to let the citizens know of our tsunami evacuation maps. And this being a public gathering, I think one of the things we need to start getting used to is when you're in a building and you're going to be gathering someplace is to know where the evacuation site is. Should such a thing happen, like a tsunami or an earthquake, then a tsunami. If you haven't picked up your maps, you need to. You can, I assume, fire stations and City Hall gather these as a north and south. For your information in this room, after the shaking stops, because that'll be the concern of an earthquake, you need to make your way to south 14th, and the Lutheran Church is the nearest assembly place. So if such an unfortunate thing happens during this meeting, I'll meet you there. The captain doesn't wait. So just, I think if we can, and maybe all of you could start, as you have meetings and stuff around the city, that we get into the habit of telling folks where the gathering places are in such an emergency. Comments from citizens present on agenda, non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to bring the council's attention any item not listed on the agenda for public hearings or public comment. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per citizen, and the city recorder will use the light system. Speakers may not yield their time to others, and as a general rule, this is not a time for exchange of questions. At the conclusion of the agenda item, a councilor may discuss or raise questions regarding an item presented by a citizen. We had Jerry Warner signed up.
My name is Jerry Warner. I live at 1233 Lakewood. Mayor and Council, I listened to Mr. Hawker's budget message last week at the budget hearing, and I wasn't sure whether or not at the next budget hearing whether you're even going to allow any kind of public input. So therefore I decided to give you a few thoughts to think about between now and then. I just want to elaborate on this situation where Mr. Hawker made about the 2.4 increase. I'm going to just run through a very few of these here to give you an idea what I'm talking about. As an example, the water treatment supervisor, now this is from last year's budget to this budget. He was making $69,715. This year he's making $75,024, which is a 7.6% increase, or $5,309 more. Public Works Director, $99,924. This year he's making $106,554, a 6.6%, or $6,630 more. Community Center Director, $71,461 last year. This year, $76,785, a 7.4% increase, $5,324 increase. Library Director, $73,474. Prior year, this year, $80,858, a 10% increase. Addition, $7,380 more. The average salary for the 7 directors is $90,761. With benefits, the average cost for taxpayers is $122,527. for the average salary of superintendents, managers, and directors is $87,684, with benefits $118,324. Just to give you an idea of a few of them here that I selected, average salary change from 2006 to the current year, these numbers I didn't have before I had the new budget in my hand, with no changes in FTE, Public Works Director, a 72% increase since 2006. The VCB Director, 97% increase. Community Center Director, 122% increase since 2006. These employees must be able to walk on water. The personnel portion of the proposed VC budget increased by $33,115, 8.95% increase from the current year. And the transit room tax for the VCB budget is $1,423,826. 41% is the cost of personnel. 41% of the total budget is for personnel. I have checked with a number of cities, and my God, I'll tell you, it's about 2 to 3 times as much. It's totally ridiculous. I haven't found any other city that even comes close to these costs. The city has a reserve of $6,349,616, and yet Mr. Hawker wants a 4% increase in sewer and water rates. Both systems have more revenue than expenditures in the current budget. Has the city ever heard of cost cutting? Mr. Hawker wants Lincoln City residents wants the taxpayers to pay for the use of the right-of-way for the sewer and water easements in the streets which have been paid for by the taxpayers. Maybe we should tax all the city employees that use the city hall a monthly charge. This makes about as much sense to me. Maybe we should tax all, excuse me. He already has made the Urban Renewal Agency paying rent for the use of their office. Let's look at the police department and dispatch center budget. It takes up an entire $4 million of the property taxes that the city receives. Just take care of the police department. With a police chief and 26 officers with only 5.6 square miles to patrol, the department has 19 vehicles. I want you to think about that a little bit. 19 vehicles. Just about everybody in the place has a vehicle except for the dispatchers. The Law Enforcement Index, which is the number of officers based on population they serve, Lincoln City has an index of 4.91. The index for Oregon is 3.67. Lincoln City is almost 33% higher. Mr. Hawker talked about a new survey. In the last survey that was done in Lincoln City, 71% said traffic was the priority. However, little has been done to resolve that problem. I have yet to see the council members disagree with anything Mr. Hawker presents to you. We wonder and I wonder, if you don't take the time to spend getting informed on some of these issues, or maybe some of you just don't really care. Only you can answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Just to rest your concerns, the Budget Committee does have public comment opportunities. So, Larry Cox. Larry, actually, you'll come up during presentation. It's not public comment time, so sorry. And assume that would any other people that didn't get a chance to sign up for public comment? Okay. We'll move then to the consent agenda. Consent agenda calendar consists of items of a repeat or routine nature considered under a single action. A councilor may remove a consent agenda item for separate consideration upon request. The consent agenda consists of, number 1, minutes of the meeting April 22nd, 2013. Item number 2 is a contract, Southwest Coast Pump Station equipment purchase. Number 3 is a contract, Lincoln City Community Center boiler replacement. Number 4, Oregon Liquor Control Commission annual renewals. And number 5, Oregon Liquor Control Commission new outlet request, LC Hotel / Inn at Wacoma.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to withdraw number 4, please.
Okay. Any others?
Number 3, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. No others? All right. With that, then, I'd entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 1, 2, and 5.
So moved.
Seconded. And a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And number 3, Mr. Norikis, contract Lincoln City Community Center boiler replacement.
Is Luke in the house?
Actually, he was ill today, and I will try my best to answer your questions.
I'm looking at attachment A, Mr. Hawker, under the analysis. First paragraph. The existing system would need to be analyzed in detail to determine how easily the new boiler can be integrated. Has that been done?
Yes.
So
You're reading from a very preliminary report that was done when we didn't know if we needed to replace the boiler at all. And that attachment was just for background, and I'm sorry if it was mischaracterized. We subsequently hired Jim Torme of MFIA, who wrote that report, to do the design, the thorough investigation, the design, contract drawings, specifications, plans, etc. So that, yes, that was all completed.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions on number 3? With that, then, entertain a motion to approve.
I have a question.
On that item?
3, yes.
Okay.
This involves the renewal of OLC license, liquor license.
No. Number 3 is the boiler.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I thought you were going on number 4.
Nope. So entertain a motion to approve the contract, Lincoln City Community Center boiler replacement.
So moved.
With a second? Second. And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed with a nay? Hearing none? Okay. Now, nope, that's all right.
I reviewed the list of businesses that we have currently licensed, and I see that there are 3 of them that are no longer in business, and I just wondered what the procedure is, of whether we just submit the list as it's given to us, or do we comment?
Actually, with approval, then the county clerk, or the city clerk would so indicate in her memo to OLCC businesses that are out of business.
Should we name those businesses, or?
She's best equipped, because it'd be a permit process.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, though. So you all right?
I'm okay with it, yeah.
So entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion with a second to approve the Oregon Liquor Control Commission annual renewals. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed with a nay? Hearing none, thank you. Now, we have a special order of business, Pacific West Ambulance Service. Seeing none, we'll move to National Safe Boating Week. Now, Larry, this is you.
You have been.
Sorry to get you up and down.
That's okay.
And you have an assistant, I'm assuming.
That's my wife.
No? Oh, she's not going to...
Probably going to take pictures or do something.
Okay, good.
Even though she doesn't know this is going national all over the country.
Well, with the streaming live, it goes all over.
Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the City Council for allowing me to be here this evening. I'm Larry Cox. I'm with the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I reside in Glen Eden Beach, just down the road. First of all, let me just say that the Coast Guard Auxiliary is a volunteer organization. We take no pay, and we have about 30,000 members nationally. I'm with the Depot Bay unit. We have about 44 members, and our area runs from Pacific City to Beverly Beach. We were here last year and talked about National Safe Boating Week, did a little demo, and we appreciate you letting us come back again. So let me say a few words about National Safe Boating Week. This is an event that's sponsored every year by the National Safe Boating Council. It's national, and the Coast Guard, active duty, the auxiliary, law enforcement, especially Marine deputies, both state police and, in our case, the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department, power squadrons get involved in it. It's an opportunity to put a lot of emphasis on boating safety prior to the start of the boating season. Boating season usually kicks off with Memorial Day. Quite frankly, in Lincoln City, it's already kicked off. We've done about 200 vessel safety checks already between Devil's Lake and Depot Bay. I was there last Saturday and did 7 boats, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see most of the people wearing life jackets, which is a great, great emphasis of National Safe Boating Week. We emphasize actually 4 areas, and those 4 areas are wear your life jacket. Life jackets have become much easier to wear. We have inflatables now, so this is what I wear when I go crabbing and fishing. When I'm on auxiliary or Coast Guard duty, I don't. I have to wear a special Type 3. We emphasize taking a boating class. We give a lot of boating classes prior to the start of boating season. We have one currently scheduled for this Friday down in Newport. We're teaming with the Oregon Coast Community College this year, doing classes with them, so we get some advertisement. You can also take a boating class online, or we give equivalency exams where I actually proctor an exam with somebody one-on-one. We emphasize get a vessel safety check. We have 10 vessel examiners in our unit. We refer to ourselves as a flotilla, and we give vessel exams. We make house calls. We staff all the boat ramps basically in Lincoln County area, in North Lincoln County. And we'll be doing a vessel safety check blitz from the 18th to the 24th of May, which is actual National Safe Boating Week. So we will have vessel examiners at Devil's Lake, probably at the East Devil's Lake Rec area, rather than Regatta Park, because more people launch from that area. Devil's Lake will be included. Let's see, Depot Bay, probably the Siletz River. There's 3 or 4 boat ramps on there. We do vessel exams just about every weekend up and down, but we'll have a big emphasis. We put boating literature up and down the coast. We actually have about 200 locations in Lincoln County, and also we're doing Salem areas. We have members who live in Salem who put out boating literature and inspect boats over there. And the final section that we emphasize of the 4 is boat sober. Awful lot of people still drink and boat. A driver cannot drink. It's different than an automobile. The passengers can drink, but the operator of the boat cannot. Fines can run about $6,250. Pretty heavy fine. You might lose your boat. So it's a good thing not to drink and drive a boat. And many of the accidents that occur are caused by drunk drivers. Last year in the numbers aren't out for 2012. In 2011, there were 758 fatalities nationally. 70% of those were not wearing life jackets, and about 415 of those were drowning. So if those people had been wearing life jackets, they might be alive. So we really, really put a lot of emphasis on that, and I really, like I said at the beginning, I'm pleased to see more people at the boat ramps wearing life jackets. We also hand out orange safety packets like this to all boaters at the boat ramps, and it's got the federal regs, the Oregon regulations, tide table, a whole lot of safety literature in there, and the bag is actually an inland visual distress signal. Somebody that has a problem, they put it on their fishing pole and wave it around. So essentially, that's what National Safe Boating Week is about. If you have any questions, I'd like to try to answer them at this time.
Hey, Mr. Cox, do you have any stats for Lincoln County boating accidents?
I don't right now.
Okay.
There were 17 in 2011 in Oregon, which is fairly low, but it's still more than should be 0. We do see more accidents inland with canoes and kayaks. And quite frankly, this number does not include beach fatalities, which, as you know, we have probably quite a few here, more than we should have. So in the last few years, we have emphasized beach safety, and we put up a lot of beach safety literature and rip current literature now. You'll see at Dee River Wayside, we actually have a brochure holder there, and we work a lot with the state parks on that.
And how would someone get a hold of you or the auxiliary for assistance?
We have business cards we can hand out tonight, but for people that aren't here, they could call me at 541-764-3504. 541-764-3504. It's my home phone number. If we're not there, just leave a message, and we, again, will make house calls. We can give information on boating classes, whatever they want about boating safety. We've got 44 members that are out and about doing boating safety.
They'll probably be able to find you this next week at any boat ramp,
Absolutely.
I'm betting.
The 18th at Devil's Lake is going to be a little crowded because, as you know, there's the jet ski competition this weekend on the 18th and 19th. So boaters might have a little bit of a struggle getting their boats launched there. But any of the other boat ramps, and we're there year-round.
Great. Good. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, Larry, when you're doing inspections on boats, are these because people have asked you to do an inspection, or are you stopping people while they're boating and that sort of thing?
We stop them and ask them if they would like a vessel safety check. We are not law enforcement, and the only things that we can't do that the active duty Coast Guard can do is law enforcement, military operations. Many people come up to us and ask us when they see us at a ramp, but I go right up to them and talk to them. If I see a boater launching their boat, I just say, "Good afternoon, would you like a vessel safety check today? It's a federal examination and it's free."
Okay.
And most people say yes. Every now and then you run into somebody that says, "No, I really don't want one." And there's usually a reason they don't want one, because they're not going to pass, but that's their option. You know.
Okay.
Active duty and the sheriff's department, people like that, it's not mandatory. They stop you and they want to do a boat inspection.
I will say that the online boating class is very comprehensive.
It is.
And, very worthwhile. That's how I got my license.
Excellent. I'm glad you have one. And as you know, it's mandatory for everybody in Oregon to have a boater's license.
Mayor, I heard mention of the number of the high accident rate for canoes and kayaks. I just wanted to mention that there is a class coming up on kayaking, I believe, this weekend, and I assume that our Recreation Department has that information.
Good information. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Other questions, everybody? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Your
Scott,
Honor.
thanks for
Appreciate it.
coming. Appreciate it. And we have Chief Killian, National Police Week.
How do we get this? Look in here.
Yeah.
A brief little PowerPoint.
This.
Are you doing a PowerPoint?
Yes.
Oh.
Don't look this way, Chief.
Maybe.
But keep your hand on the wheel.
It's on the iDrive. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I just wanted to recognize, for your benefit and for benefit of the community, that this week is National Police Week. It started actually yesterday, May 12th, and goes through the 18th of the month. The history behind National Police Week: in 1962, President John F. Kennedy designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which May 15th falls in is Law Enforcement Police Week. Then the law was amended by the Violent Crimes Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, signed by President Bill Clinton, directing that the flag of the United States be displayed at half-staff on all government buildings on May 15th of each year. This evening, there will be a candlelight vigil. In fact, it's ongoing probably right now at the National Law Enforcement Memorial in Washington, D.C. They'll be doing a roll call of adding 321 names to their wall. And Oregon officers being added to the wall this evening are 4 officers, all from the Portland Police Bureau: Gilbert Horton, Len Lidsenberg, Charles Vincent, and James Wright. Although none of them were killed in the line of duty in 2012, they've been doing a little bit of research and stuff, and as appropriately putting additional names on the walls. Their end of watches were in 1946, 1918, 1942, and 1923. Currently, with the addition of these 4 names, there'll be 174 names of Oregon law enforcement officers on the walls back at the National Memorial. There's been a total of 1,539 law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty during the past 10 years. That averages 57, or 1 death every 57 hours, or 154 per year. This last year in 2012 was a little bit low. We only experienced 120 law enforcement officers killed. Last year in 2011 it was 169. Then during National Police Week, the COPS, which is the Concerns of Police Survivors, encourages the display of blue ribbons on car antennas. The COPS distributes over 1 million blue ribbons for the National Police Week campaign. And law enforcement personnel and citizens are encouraged to tie blue ribbons to their car antennas. The blue ribbons are a reminder of law enforcement officers, personnel who've made the ultimate sacrifice. And as President George Bush carved on these walls is the story of America, of a continuing quest to preserve both democracy and decency, and to protect the national treasure that we call the American dream. So in recognition of honoring our fallen, I'm asking city and members of the community to fly their flags at half-staff, affix a blue ribbon to the car antennas, and just remember and honor our fallen.
Very good. Thank you.
And I do have some ribbons for each of the members of the City Council.
Good. And is there a place for the public to get blue ribbons, or should they do their own?
Probably do their own. I tried to order a bunch of them this year. The order didn't arrive in time for this evening.
We'll save it for next year.
Save that for next year and order more.
That's good.
Chief, because so many of the newer cars don't have an antenna, where is the safest place to hang one of those ribbons?
Maybe on a door handle.
Okay.
Yeah. The traditional car antennas are kind of going by the wayside now, aren't they?
Thank you, Chief. It's a good reminder. Let's see, our next order of business is a contract item, the HVAC construction. Lila.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have budgeted in this year's budget $80,000 for 4 heating, ventilation, air conditioning units for on top of City Hall on this building. And we advertised for our bids in the statewide construction newspaper, the Daily Journal of Commerce, and our local News Guard. And we received 4 sealed bids on May 2nd, and we had a low bidder of RJ Sheet Metal at $74,948.80. And we had a bid from Cushman Heating, Lincoln City, Oregon, $89,556. And Hydrotemp Mechanical of Wilsonville, Oregon, at $111,683. And Growthgate Sheet Metal, Lincoln City, Oregon, $124,527. And the bid amount includes 1 10-ton unit and a 12-ton unit servicing the second floor in the library, and a 12-ton unit for the third floor court area, and a 12-ton unit for the third floor council chambers. And the bids include gas and electrical connections to the units, curb adapters, and an application of a coastal treatment to all copper assemblies. and testing to all applicable standards. And then we're doing a complete removal of all of the old units. And we also asked for an extended 5-year warranty. And this bid also includes a removal of a unit on the 4th floor vacant area and a cap to be placed on that. And so we're planning that installation in June. And so our recommendation was to award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, which is RJ Sheet Metal Company in Milwaukee, Oregon, for $74,948. And that we're asking that would become final automatically if no timely protest is received. And so RJ Sheet Metal did a project for us in 2008. They replaced 4 units on this building and did that job successfully for us. And then in 2010, we also had a project of 2 HVAC replacements, just for a little history. And that was Portland Mechanical that did those.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Lila, I was really surprised by how far apart those bids are. That high bid is $70,000 more than the low, which is double what the low bid is, and that's kind of unusual, isn't it?
It just depends on the mechanical part of these. They're all bidding the same document. We did do a couple of addendums, but they were, fairly minor addendums, so I think it's probably similar to the boiler bids even. So you don't know what they're going to come out at.
Okay.
But the fact that we have some history with RJ Sheet Metal, we felt comfortable with those bids. And I can tell you what they were in 2008, because I thought you might have a question like that. In the 2008 bid, we had 3 bidders. RJ Sheet Metal was $63,576. Robert Lloyd Sheet Metal was $66,802. And Portland Mechanical was $74,197. And that was for a similar set of units, 4 units. So,
A lot closer, though, than being double what our low bid is.
they're not that close, but for 4 units, so the bids back in 2008 for the 4 units was $63,576.
No, but I'm just talking about the disparity between the high and low bid.
I'm not
Quite
sure.
a bit different this time.
It is definitely more so.
Lila, do we ever look at what components make up the difference, just out of curiosity, of the 2 local?
It's a lump sum bid.
Is it? Okay, so they don't break down.
Really do that.
Okay.
I always average them out at, around $16,000 a unit.
Okay.
What they've historically, come in at.
Yes.
Lila, what does the tonnage refer to?
That's a size, we're replacing them in kind, and so as far
But the
as...
unit doesn't weigh 10 tons, does it?
No.
Or does it move 10 tons of air?
Yes, it's an air. It's air. I can look that up for you. So they do say that they're a 12.5-ton unit with an economizer, 5-horsepower fan motor, and roof curb adapter, and then it provides a thermostat that's compatible with our lawn mark controller system. And so they call them 12-ton units. I'd have to get back to you on exactly the definition.
Thank you.
I believe that refers to its capacity as far as BTUs, either cooling or heating. I believe cooling. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Other questions from council? Okay. So what we're looking for is a motion to approve the, award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, which is RJ Sheet Metal Company, in the amount of $74,948.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion with a second to award the bid to the lowest responsible bidder, RJ Sheet Metal Company, in the amount of $74,948. Although, voice or vote.
Sprague.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
Quant.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Eggleton. And Ellingson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Next item is a sub-grant agreement between the Community Housing Services and the City of Lincoln City.
I apparently am handling this item. I do not know a lot about it. I did help Ron out, and I took the standard agreement he gave me, and I, with his assistance, filled in the blanks and formatted it, and also wrote the council communication. Unfortunately, Ron's not here tonight, so all I can tell you is that there's been a change in the law. We need to transfer these funds to an eligible 105A15 nonprofit organization. The Community Housing Services meets those criteria, and the state has been involved with Ron and working on the details of the sub-grant agreement, and so the recommendation from staff is actually a little fluid. It recommends approval of the sub-grant agreement and further recommends the mayor be authorized to sign the final negotiated version of the agreement after review and approval of any changes to the document by the city attorney and city manager. So I don't anticipate there's really going to be any change to this agreement, but just in case, we wanted to try to get ahead of it. Apparently, it's very time sensitive. This was kind of like hurry up, and now it's wait, as these things typically go. But we wanted to be prepared, and we don't have another meeting until June 10th, so we wanted to get this before you. So I'm asking for a staff recommendation.
My only understanding of this issue is if we don't do this, then the money goes to the state. If we do this, it stays in Lincoln County, and that's the best we can do. We can't find a way to keep it exclusively within Lincoln City, but we can get it more local than state of Oregon.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a question about that. This money was given to Lincoln City through the state so that we could loan this money out.
It was federal money.
It's federal money, but it's still given to us to handle, and then we've been handling it. Now we're transferring these loans to be administered in Lincoln County, apparently. And my question is that money then designated when it's paid back to come back to us, or does it kind of go anywhere in Lincoln County?
I believe it can go anywhere.
See, that bothers me, because it was our money to begin with, and it was given to us with trust because we could handle it, and we have. And I just have a problem with that.
My understanding is we held on to it as long as we could, and then this regulation changed and kind of forced the issue.
Yeah, I understand that the regulation changed, but I don't understand why they couldn't at least designate that the money that we had stayed with the entity that was loaning it.
So, Mr. Counselor, if you would write down that question and save it, the next time one of your senators, federal senators, or congressmen come to town for a town hall, that would be a good question for you to bring up.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to buck the system, if that's what you were implying.
I just don't like bureaucracy.
But I think Mr. Hawker's point is a good one. By making this transfer, we at least keep the money in Lincoln County, because we'd never see it if it went to the state.
So that somebody else can have it instead of us, right?
We do a pretty good job.
Yeah. We have a history of using, as I recall the stats that Ron has provided us before, North County is a big user of these funds.
That's correct.
So,
to fit Roger's, it's going to just fit Roger, too, because they're taking a 20% principal amount, they're taking a loan fee.
No, I saw that.
20% loan fee, so eventually it's just going to just fit a loan fee, so.
It's going to be in fees.
That's, you know, obviously it worked.
so, other questions? So, hearing none, then the idea would be to approve the agreement conditioned upon...
It'd be staff recommendations.
Yes, just a staff recommendation would...
Includes approval of the agreement and authorizing
the mayor to sign
in case there are any changes.
I would so move.
With a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor say, this is a budgeted item, so we might do a roll call just to be sure.
Norikis?
Yes.
Quant?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Eggleton? Ellingson? And Sprague.
Under duress, yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Finance. Debbie, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Included in your packet is a quarterly update financial report. This includes expenditures from July of 2012 through March of 2013. I'll go through a couple comments that I had, and then if you have any questions, please let me know. First page reviews the general fund revenues and expenditures. Would note, under revenues, the transit room tax overall through the first 3 quarters of the year is up 8% over the prior year, so that's really good to see. Franchises are down, however, they're not down quite as much as they show on this report. There is a timing difference where last year includes a payment that didn't get posted until April of this year. There's only about a $10,000 decrease if you adjust for that. In the middle section where it has expenses by type, under total benefits, the prior year includes a $72,000 workers' comp expense allocation that was not done until the 4th quarter. When that allocation happens and moves the expenses to other funds, the benefits line up a lot nicer. Under the expenses by division, there's a difference in the City Council, and that's related to the VRD consultant. And the difference in general non-departmental is, again, where that's where the workers' comp, the $72,000 that hasn't been allocated in the prior year. That's the division that it's in. Are there any questions on the general fund?
No. Thank you.
Okay. Next page, I believe, is we have Parks Maintenance Fund and a Police Dispatch Fund. Only comment I have on that is under operations expense for dispatch. The prior year, fiscal year 11-12, includes annual maintenance fees for CAD, and that has not hit this year yet. So that's a big part of the reason for that variance. Are there any questions on either of these funds? Okay. Page 3 covers our water operations and our sewer operations. Don't have any comments on the water operations. Under sewer operations, the other state allocation revenue of $25,596 is a FEMA reimbursement for the Southeast 35th Street storm manhole at the Nell Scott sewer pump station. And the operations expense year-to-date is trending higher than the prior year, and this is just a kind of a combination of several different types of expenditures. Sludge removal year-to-date is $50,000 higher than the prior year. Again, that could be timing. Pacific Power is about $20,000 higher. Gas is about $12,000. So it's just a variety of several different types of expenditures that are just running higher. Are there any questions on water or sewer?
Nope.
Okay. The final page covers street operations fund and street capital fund. The other allocation revenue under street operations, again, relates to FEMA funding, and this is for the Southeast 51st Street bank erosion. And I don't have any other comments on this page, unless there's questions.
Chester?
Debbie, any surprises or concerns?
No, things are trending, comparatively well to last year, and also in comparison to budget. So there's nothing of particular worry or surprise. Revenues are looking better compared to budget than we budgeted for, but that's a nice surprise. So hopefully it stays that way.
Thank you.
Sure.
And I might remind council and the audience that this is third quarter numbers, and actually council has seen estimates for the year end already. Yes. through the budget committee. So it's not like we're not interested, but we've got a sneak preview of year end already that we've been pawing through. So.
Right, and the budget includes a lot more detail, line detail. So
But this is nice to show, so I appreciate that.
Sure.
And you sent your graphs again. I appreciate that. Always
Good.
colorful. Any questions from council? Hearing none. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
Now we do city manager report.
Mayor, just a few items here. The public, council is aware, and the public may be aware, that our south entrance sign to Lincoln City is on property that we currently lease from Quaid Construction. And you may recall that some time ago, the lease expired on that property, and we are in a short-term lease on it now. But only because we were not able to find another location in time or so on. So that is about to run out. We may have to remove that sign. We had hoped that at some point we could come to you with a proposal to purchase a portion or all of that property. We're not at that point yet, so just stay tuned. But it is entirely possible that we will have to relocate that sign or remove it altogether. So just mostly a heads up for the community. Next Monday at 5 o'clock, we start our continued budget meeting with the city budget next Monday at 5 in this chamber. Memorial Day is a holiday, and council agreed, if at all possible, that we would cancel that and not reset it. However, with the possibility that one or more items may come up between now and then, I would ask council if you would entertain at least reserving a date and time for a meeting in the event that we need it. My recommendation would be next Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if that fits your calendar or not. And we, again, would only call this if needed. We will put out an agenda for that meeting at least 24 hours in advance.
That's the 20th?
That would be the 20th. Now, at 5 o'clock, we start into budget meeting, but I would think either Friday afternoon or Monday morning would be appropriate to hold open a time and date in case we need it. Again, no certainty that we do. So could you possibly give me direction on that?
Monday worked fine for me.
Monday at 10?
Monday at 10, yeah.
10? Yeah. Just to stand by, okay? Consider it on hold.
Thank you very much, Mayor. That's all I had.
Thank you, David.
Mr. Apicello may have some items.
I always like to give Apicello a chance to see if he's
I have a number
there.
of items on the agenda yet.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. I will say that David mentioned there's a kayak class, which is an American Canoe Association class, but no one has signed up for it yet. So I have 10 spots available.
Who's the instructor on that? That might be, what kind of credentials does the instructor have? Can we advertise a little here?
The instructors would be all American Canoe Association Coastal Sea Kayak certified instructors.
Good. That's what I like to.
Volunteer instructors.
And that's in the pool, so the water's warmer and all that. That's great. Okay. All right. Thank you, and I'm sure we'll be tapping into you during these next two big sessions. Next order of business is public hearing, and this is item number 14 is real property exchange transaction. This was having to do with the city water tower site at Northeast Surf, the Larry Morris property. We opened the hearing April 8th and continued it through April 22nd to tonight. Lila.
Your Honor, I'll just point out this is a continued hearing. It's handled in the same fashion as the original hearing. Because the nature of it is essentially quasi-judicial, I think you could ask for any ex parte communications that may have occurred since the last meeting.
From council, any ex parte situations that you'd, this is the property exchange? Okay.
Do you consider the letters that were sent to all of the council ex parte?
No, they're in the record.
Okay.
You all right, Gary? Yep.
I'm okay.
Okay.
I saw a couple of the parties just in passing, but in a small town that happens. But I didn't discuss anything of any substantive nature concerning what we're hearing tonight. But I know the gentleman that came up and talked about this at the first hearing, and then I know the gentleman that is wanting to see this come to a conclusion. So.
Okay. All right. We missed you on the first meeting, Lila. So.
Yeah, it was sorry about that.
That's all right.
So I've come back with some pictures of the property that will be a little bit more explanatory. I've also, given the extra time, we were able to research the gentleman that came up and talked about his ingress and egress easement, and he does not have an easement in place, and so that is one of the problems. And then we also have, so let me back up just a little bit. So the city does not have an easement across the Morris property to access the reservoir, and that's at Northeast Surf Avenue. And so the city would also need this property for future seismic upgrades and construction of a new reservoir. This is the oldest of our reservoirs, built in 1972. And other updated information was the fact that we will need to get another easement across the Zimchek property, which we haven't contacted them yet. So this is essentially a first step in cleaning up an old county plat that was, just not done correctly back in the old days. Anyways, and so go ahead and show you. We're looking at exchanging exact square footage for exact square footage. And so our reservoir, so this is the MacArthur home, and right now they come across this section of property and through this driveway to get to this roadway to get to their house. Our reservoir, it looks a little off scale because this is the aerial, but this is the location of our reservoir. So it just gives you an idea of the layout of the land right there. And then this is the survey that we had completed. And so we overlaid that onto the aerial map. And this is a LiDAR photo that I had our GIS coordinator, Sandy Gruber, put together for me that shows the reservoir, and it's the lay of the land through that laser technology, and you can see a ravine over in this section, and so the property just falls off from here down. And so what the thought is to this part of the property is the most important to our reservoir site and rebuilding that site. And this is the contour that shows that as well. And then this is the current ownership, the blue being property owned by the city for the reservoir, and then after the property transaction, what that would look like. So we'd be owning that entire blue section. And this was in front of past council and a lot of discussion, and I think it just got lost in the actual trading of the property and bringing it back to council and doing the public hearing from 2006. And so Mr. MacArthur called me, and we had meetings with Larry Morris and Mr. MacArthur and discussed all of this. And so he's not here tonight, but he has talked on me on the phone quite a few times, and I talked with his title company. And so he will, this is the first step, then we'll have to come back and negotiate that easement, and then we'll have to look at cleaning up the actual roadway as well on SURF. And that was the other letter of record. Those are the only two comments that I received officially.
Okay. So the question of hand is whether to make the swap, correct? That's
Yes.
really what council
Yes,
is
that's
dealing
the
with.
decision that's being looked at with this public hearing.
And it's really swapping that lower portion.
It's 8,100 feet for exactly that same portion.
Great.
And the trail that Mr. MacArthur was talking about was actually developed by Larry Morris. He had gone up and cleared that out, and so there was a walking path through there.
Okay.
And all the neighbors use that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Question about the gentleman that has the house, and he needs an easement from us after this transaction in order to access his house. Is that correct?
That's correct. I can go back to that slide.
No, that's okay. I remember that. Now, is that, where does the actual platted street end?
Let me go back to that first slide.
It
So
ends,
the actual platted street is over here where it says Northeast Surf Avenue.
can you?
So that's the actual end of the street, and this is where you're actually driving, is across this piece of property, then across Morris's property, then across the city property to get to his driveway.
Which will then be going across ours instead of Morris's property, but the only place that we'll have frontage on that street then is further up, isn't it?
It's at this corner, actually.
Okay,
So we'll be having to clean up a little bit more than just
okay.
just this property transaction. We'll have to look at an easement, getting that road possibly platted in the right location.
Yeah, I think we need to make sure that we have plenty of access to that property, because if we don't do that now, it's possible we lose that.
Yep. So that was I have all of the paperwork in order, and so it's just council's approval of this, then I can record those documents and then move on to the next step.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to be sure you understood that this wasn't finished at this point, but
Complicated.
it is.
We'll see it again, huh? See portions of this again?
Yes.
Any other questions from council? Mr. Tricus?
Lila, Mr. MacArthur is happy with this process,
Yes.
and everybody's in agreement?
Yes.
Thank you.
And we'll ask for public comments and stuff, but the action then tonight is a resolution, a ordinance, or just by motion?
I believe it's just a motion to approve the land exchange,
Okay.
and I believe staff had included the findings in their staff report.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't I don't go anywhere, because is there any public comment at this time? That'd be the time to come forward. Any agency discussions? Hearing none.
We've opened and
I would move we close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed with a nay. Thank you. So then, now would be a time for a motion to accept the staff report and approve the exchange.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion with the second. All those, is this a roll call vote? Better do a roll call vote, please.
Norikis,
Yes?
Sprague, Quant,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Eggleton, and Ellingson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
See you again on the topic. All right. Now we have another public hearing, and for the purpose of receiving comment testimony on proposed ordinance regarding uniform administrative appeal.
Actually, I guess I'd ask that you consider items 15 and 16 together, so if anyone wants to speak on either ordinance, you ask them to, I'd open the public hearing and...
For both?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's do that. Let's open the public hearing for item 16 for the purpose of receiving comment testimony on proposed ordinance for liquor license review. So we have both public hearings open.
Okay. The reason why I ask is that these ordinances were crafted together to create a process for making a recommendation to the OLCC on any liquor license applications that come before you. We talked about this several months ago now, and we have transmitted these ordinances to the OLCC for review. They are not substantially changed from what you saw in draft form. Essentially, the uniform administrative appeal process is sort of generic and provides a due process hearing, whereas the liquor license review is specific to the OLCC applications. The city recorder as well as the police chief play a significant role in the liquor license review, and so that's reflected in the ordinance. The council under the Uniform Administrative Appeal ordinance has the ability to conduct a appeal as a body, or you can delegate that task to a hearings officer, either to conduct it in full or to conduct the hearing and make a recommendation to you. So tried to build in some flexibility. Now, your city charter says you may enact an ordinance at a single meeting. That is discretionary language, and I am specifically asking you not to adopt this ordinance this evening. And I believe this is the preference of the mayor as well, that we conduct the initial reading of the ordinance and approve it, and then continue the matter to the next regularly scheduled meeting. And as part of the recommendation here, we're also asking that you leave the record of the hearing open, essentially, and allow interested parties to submit any comments. Don't see a lot of public interest in this matter. It's not the most exciting piece of legislation out there, but we do anticipate the OLCC will give us something. If the OLCC needs additional time, then I will come back to you and ask that we continue the liquor license review ordinance. You won't have to continue the administrative appeal, because that can go forward without. It's a separate piece, really. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd ask that you ask for public comment, even though I anticipate there won't be any.
Any questions from council of city attorney regarding these? And as a reminder, as he's stated, we asked him to pull these together for us for one universal appeal process. Everybody's okay? All right. With that, then I will ask for anybody public comment come forward. Seeing, hearing none. Agency comments. Seeing, hearing none.
I believe you could close the public hearing, but specifically ask the record be left open for any written submissions of comments.
Okay. With that, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing, but have the record kept open until...
I think we said June 5th.
Yeah, just before the
agenda deadline.
Agenda is put out for the next council meeting.
So moved. Seconded.
We have a motion, motion with a second to close the public hearing with petitions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed with a nay? Hearing none.
I need to actually conduct the first reading of the ordinances, and so I'll do that, and then you can approve first reading and continue second reading to June 10th. This is the first reading of an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title V, adding a new Chapter 5.02, Liquor License Review, relating to establishing a local review process for OLCC applications. This is the first reading of an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title I, General Provisions, adding Chapter 1.26, Uniform Administrative Appeals Ordinance, relating to creating a uniform administrative appeals process.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the first reading and set second reading and adoption of the ordinance for June 10th.
Second.
We need that authorize the receipt of written comments into the record.
I believe you did that when you did the first motion.
All right.
But is this in relation to the liquor license review or the administrative appeals?
Oh, I'm sorry. Which one am I looking at? The liquor license review ordinance. Sorry.
We have a motion with a second for adoption of the first reading. Does this have to be a roll call, do you think? Should we?
I'm not sure what your process is for first readings.
I don't think we can establish one right here.
Oh, I would make it safe and just vote individually.
Yeah.
Okay. Quant.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Eggleton. Ellingson.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
And Sprague.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And we'll need a second motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would also make a motion to approve the first reading and set second reading and adoption of the administrative appeals ordinance for June 10th.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those, roll call, please. Roll call vote.
Sprague.
Yes.
Quant.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ryan. Eggleton. Ellingson and Norikis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Then we have one public hearing left. Public hearing for the purpose of receiving comment testimony on proposed ordinance for conveyance of public utility easements. That also staff report from city attorney?
Yes. Again, this is again a public hearing because as you just conducted a public hearing for a land exchange, the state statute 221-725 requires a public hearing whenever you convey or dispose of an interest in land or an actual fee title to land. What the statutes also do is specifically authorize in 221-727 that you may adopt a separate process that doesn't involve a public hearing for interests that are less than the fee interest. So this ordinance is modeled after, I believe, the City of Lake Oswego ordinance for conveyance of public utility easements. That's an interest in property, not the full property, and you're specifically delegating the ability to convey those interests to the city manager without a public hearing. However, there are some, I guess, protections there in that delegation is that the administrator has, or the manager has to make some specific findings about the conveyance, and if, for example, a utility provider objects, then we'll be back here at doing the same kind of process we just did for a public hearing under 221-725. So again, this is fairly constrained. I did add a few things so that the city manager can, over what the City of Lake Oswego ordinance provided, so that city manager can require that the applicant obtain no objections from the other utility providers, basically allowing the the manager to request additional information to make sure that the appropriate findings are made. So I beefed it up a little bit over what Lake Oswego provided. I also provided that the city could initiate it as opposed to simply an applicant initiating it. As with the last two ordinances, I am not asking you to adopt it this evening. I am asking that you only take public comment as the statute requires, and that I conduct first reading, and that you approve first reading and continue the matter to June 10th. Again, just as the last ordinance, leaving the record open until June 5th for any interested parties to come in and comment. We don't appear to have anyone here interested, but that doesn't mean that someone won't read about this and decide that they need to comment by the next meeting. So with that, I'd ask for public comment.
Well, first, we're going to quiz you, at least have the opportunity. Is there questions regarding this? Get into your mic, will you?
On this. Now, there's a lot of little small strips of land that go to the ocean from these roads. Now, could those be considered that those there was utility there, and that land be given to one of the neighbors or sold to a neighbor? Is that?
No, we're not. We are not vacating plats or rights of way. This is strictly for utility easements which have been conveyed.
That's only where a easement was given for a utility before. Is that correct, then?
Well, an easement granted to the city or to the public for utility purposes. Yeah, we're not talking about access easements or rights of way.
Okay.
Especially rights of way leading to water are generally considered. You don't ever vacate those. But this is more specifically. I think I may have described this as that. One of our engineers showed me a map where we have utility easements on lots, and the actual sewer mains over here, and the utility easements over here. And so this would allow the manager, without having to have a hearing, to trade a utility easement that actually covered the line for the one that's over here. So that's the practical reason for bringing this forward. And so we could do that without having to come up here and have a bunch of public hearings that no one comes to testify. Now, there's some threshold findings that the manager needs to make. So we're not going to willy-nilly start moving things around, but we're going to try and make sure the city's protected.
All right.
Thank you.
Other questions, clarifications from council?
I might add that although this ordinance would have not been particularly useful in the past, we're doing a lot of work now to identify easements. And keep in mind that those can come from water districts, cities that are no longer exist, municipalities that no longer exist, et cetera. And most of you are aware of the degree of survey accuracy that this area has enjoyed over the years. So as we identify these easements that we hold and place them on our GIS system and see that they don't even come close to lining up with lines, this is going to become, as we try to rectify all these problems, it's going to be something that's useful at that time.
Agreed. Other questions, comments? This would be then a time for the public to come forward with any comments or questions. Seeing none. Outside agencies? Seeing none. With that, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
And could I ask that you leave the record open until June 5th at 5 p.m.?
So the motion would be to close the public hearing, but leaving the record open until June 5th.
Seconded.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed with a nay. Hearing none. Perhaps you could then read the first reading.
Okay, this is the first reading of an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title IV, Real Property, adding a new Chapter 4.06, Conveyance of Public Utility Easements, relating to the delegation of duties to the city manager.
Entertain a motion to approve the first reading and
Set second reading.
set the second reading for June 10th at this location.
So moved.
Second.
We have a second motion with a second. Roll call, please.
Quant.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Eggleton. Ellingson.
Yes.
Horakis and
Yes.
Sprague.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And again, remind the public, the reason this is different in doing the first readings and then there'll be a second reading, the idea is to make sure the public has plenty of time to comment, if they so desire, on ordinances, and it just provides that opportunity. On other ordinances, there may be more discussion or comments where the newspaper would pick up a story, and thus, it's a way of delaying the final action to give the public a broader opportunity. With that, then, we're into two more ordinances, and let's see, we have a first reading on an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title II, Administration and Personnel, Chapter 2.06, City Appointive Bodies, adding a new Section 2.06.030 relating to the quorum and the effect of the lack thereof. Councilor, City Attorney, could you help us with that?
Sure. Okay, this is not a public hearing matter, but we did basically do this in the same way. These ordinances, actually, the amendment to 206 linked to an amendment to 264. So the amendment to 206 is the chapter on city appointive bodies, and that's basically to add a new section 2.06030 relating to quorum and the effect of a lack of a quorum. This is actually part of a larger ordinance, which we chose just to bring you this little piece because it went with the 264 amendment to the Arts Committee. But my intention is to bring back a uniform appointive body or uniform advisory body procedures, much as you have a chapter dedicated to how you run your meetings. We can have a more uniform section in the ordinance for all other appointive bodies. One of the issues is, for one of the basic issues is a quorum. What constitutes a quorum? And we can turn to Robert's Rules of Order, but sometimes you have difficulties getting a quorum, and there's questions about what happens if you don't have a quorum. For example, and you have an advertised item on the agenda. So this is an attempt to answer some of those questions. It came up in the context of the other ordinance, which is here, an amendment to Chapter 2.64, and that is issue with relationship to the Arts Committee. The Arts Committee apparently has had difficulty obtaining a quorum, so that it was requested from VCB that we do an amendment to that ordinance to change the number of people that resided in the city. And so ultimately what you have before you in that ordinance is an attempt to lessen the requirements, that not just the number of city residents, but also the number of members on the committee. If you reduce the number of members on a committee from 7 to 5, that lowers the number of people that constitute a quorum under the quorum calculation. Also, the existing ordinance requires you to be a city resident. We've expanded that to city and also county, or I'm sorry, city and UGB, and then the larger area would be the county. So that's the second ordinance, the 264. So in sum, 206 is just some basic rules about the quorum, basically how you calculate a quorum and what happens if you don't have a quorum. Well, you can't take any action. And if you don't have a quorum, then if you have advertised items on the agenda, they should be automatically continued by operation of law, and that's what this gets done. Now, again, I can come back later, and I've given David some draft language for beefing up this whole chapter. Right now, Chapter 206 only has like 2 sections. And so we can add, this was the appropriate place to make rules for all appointive bodies. And so this is just the first kind of baby step to cover this issue.
Well, and so the action would be have discussion, but hopefully do the first reading of this ordinance tonight for the quorum, correct?
Yes, and essentially, if you want, I can talk about the specifics of the language of the ordinance, but I'm prepared to do the first reading, and then I'd ask that you do the same process you just did and just say that you'll accept any written comments. It's not a public hearing, but you'll accept any written comments in time for the next agenda.
Okay. If we could then, before we do that, are there any questions regarding that one ordinance? It seemed pretty cut and dry, a nice example of how to calculate to a whole number. We all right? And if entertain well, I guess the reading of the first reading.
Do you need a motion to have the first reading and then leave the record open? Is that it?
Yes, let me do the first reading, and then
we'll do it.
This is the first reading of an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title II, Administration and Personnel, amending Chapter 2.06, City Appointive Bodies, adding a new Section 2.06030 relating to the quorum and the effect of a lack thereof.
So then the motion would be to approve the first reading and accept written comments until June 5th.
And set second reading for June 10th.
And set the second reading on June 10th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a roll call, please.
Sprague.
Yes.
Quant.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Eggleton. Ellingson.
Yes.
And Norikis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, what's happened to my voice?
And then our last ordinance is one, again, looking for a first reading, but this ordinance is regarding the Arts Committee, has made a request as City Attorney Apichello has suggested to lower the membership from 7 to 5 and to change some of the boundary of which members can be drawn from.
So this would be the first reading of an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title II, Administration and Personnel, amending Chapter 2.64, Arts Committee, Section 2.64020, Membership, and Section 2.64050, Rules of Procedure, relating to membership, residency requirements, and related meeting procedures.
For motion, could we have some discussion on this? Questions arose, and primarily looking for uniformity with all committees. I think one of the things we've found is the drawing criteria or eligibility criteria sometimes varies committee by committee. And I know some of them have to by statute. The Budget Committee has to be all citizens. Planning Commission, we have some UGB, but there's a variety of other committees. And I guess my first reaction, because we did change the Art Committee to UGB a while back, and now I see it going Lincoln County.
Well, I believe the language that's there now is the Taft School District.
Correct. Yeah, thank you. We expanded it to the Taft School District. And I see that was crossed out and instead suggesting Lincoln County for
The
one.
real problem is the city, having the city resident, and that's where we need to perhaps expand city to UGB, and you could leave the Taft in there as the other members, but I'm not quite sure. I think the coverage would be quite similar to the UGB. I think it's larger, but not as large as the entire county.
Yeah, I guess, and I guess my questions, and maybe Sandy might be able to help us with the discussion on this, but the idea of moving to the Taft School District was that encompasses folks who actually feed into Lincoln City with their school kids and the larger community. I'm having a little trouble thinking Lincoln County and spending Lincoln City tax dollars on public art and stuff. So I understand the reach, but on my first blush would be need to hear why we really need to go from the Taft School District to Lincoln County.
Well, you could go to the Taft School District. Remember, the applications still have to come in, and that would be a factor probably how far you were outside of Lincoln City. Nonetheless, you would, as a county resident, have some interest in the general beautification of the area. The primary reason, I think, for trying to go to the county is that there has been such a struggle trying to keep enough people coming to meetings to actually do something, particularly when 4 of them were required to be city residents. So you'd have 4 people there, and you'd have a quorum, but there were 3 of them that were from the city, and someone was from someplace else, and can we go forward? No. So we spent a lot of time not going forward. The county widens that quite a bit, and what it does also is it broadens our ability to bring in people who have different talents and different experiences who might be able to contribute to our ideas of what art to select. The art's going to stay here in any event.
Gilson?
Having served on the Arts Committee for a while, after I got off council last time, that was a constant issue, is we had getting a quorum was hard enough.
Right.
And keeping people interested was hard enough, but you kind of get locked in on a certain mindset of what kind of art you're thinking of. Whereas I agree, whether it goes complete county-wide, I don't know, but having more input into this kind of a committee, I think, is really important. For instance, I don't think the Taft School District includes, Cascade Head Ranch. That's in the Tillamook School District. Although those people spend time and money and effort and own businesses and whatever in this community. So I think it's important that we include those people.
Well, you realize the wording wouldn't in this case either, because that's a whole other county.
Somehow or other, if we could, because there's some very artistic people out there that would be a great contribution to the idea of public art. I'm one of those people that was pushing the public art process to begin with, and I'm just not seeing variations. I'm not seeing very much of it, actually, and I'd like to see a whole lot more variations. And I'm thinking that one of the ways that we get that variation is by getting a lot of other people involved.
If I might add also that, as you know, right now the Public Arts Committee doesn't have a whole lot of money to work with, and that may change to some extent in the future, but it's not going to change anytime soon, which means that if they're going to do something that's valuable to the community, and they can, they're going to need to bring in some other talents, too, because the Public Arts Committee itself may now have to start trying to raise funds from other organizations to put that together. Well, you don't find volunteer grant writers everywhere, particularly not in a narrow community. So we may be looking for other members who have the expertise and the connections in those areas as well as in the arts themselves.
Please.
I'm not interested in having somebody, say, living in Yachats or around the Yachats area, having anything to say about how we spend our tax dollars. I just think that's too broad. And I also think that the arts are important enough that there should be enough local people. With the number of galleries that we have here, with the number of presentations that we have on art, I'm surprised that we can't interest enough people to be on the committees. But I don't want to be going county-wide. I just think that's too broad.
Other thoughts, comments, questions?
Roger, that going county-wide is too broad.
I guess the other question which it kind of raises is, does it need to exist? You know, if you struggle with participation, it leads me to believe that there isn't the level of interest that we thought there would be until maybe the coffers are full. And so it might be a committee that likes to spend money, but not a group of people that want to, you know, as you've indicated, now they're going to have to go look for grant money, write some proposals, do some other things than just spend.
I don't agree with you, Mayor. I think it's a committee that's very necessary in this town. The fact that there aren't people wanting to participate right now is not necessarily indicative of that.
Sometimes committees need to take a rest. And, I mean, one can only, City Attorney, I guess this is one of the questions I've always had, is the absence of the citizen involvement, where do activities go to? Is that then revert to council making a decision? Are they the...
I believe in the ordinance that you just approved first reading, I put in a kind of stopgap provision that said it will automatically come to you if they fail to act within 60 days. And I actually stole that from Planning Commission rules. But it's not uncommon to see that. And if you have a trouble getting a committee to get a quorum, then, or just get together and have their meetings, they could have a quorum, then that's kind of the default. It falls on you.
And I guess I know we're talking about the Art Committee, but by far the Art Committee isn't the only one. You know, I looked at Parks and
VCB.
I know, and we lowered the number for that reason and expanded the geography, as I recall, on
Yes.
that one too. The mix of,
Yes.
Again, assisting. And Sustainability Committee is another one where it just has taken a hiatus. Though there seems to be new interest because of the bike pedestrian plan. So I guess, you know, on the surface, I don't mind, and it would encourage the Taft School District geography. And I'm trying to remember the mix. So it might be the mix of fewer city residents. That'd be 5. You know, maybe reduce that by 1, and forgive me because I don't remember what the mix was.
It was 4 city city residents, and that's what made it really difficult.
Existing language is at least 4 of the members must be residents of the city, 3 of the members may be residents within the Taft High School service area, even though not residents of the city. If you change at least 4 of the members must be residents of the city to at least 3 of the members must be residents of the city or UGB, you could leave that second sentence alone, except to change 3 to 2. So the second sentence would be 2 of the members may be residents within the Taft High School service area, even though not residents of the city. You could just leave it like that.
Well, I guess I'm looking, Sandy, I think by lowering it to 5 probably makes sense for the quorum issue.
Yeah.
So I'm with that, and I can make sense out of that. Then just making the mix that would fit. And as I said before, I view that certainly the Taft School District draw as very Lincoln City-ish. So I would even be willing to flip the 2 and say, you know, 2 as residents of Lincoln City and 3 from the broader, if that would help.
I'll take it.
I'm looking for help and advice, though, because I understand the dilemma and wanting to keep within the more refined boundary. And Roger, I look at you because you were making noise, but do you not disagree with the Taft School District has the citizenry look towards Lincoln City, and I'm not uncomfortable having that mix of people be involved.
Well, if you say the Taft district, you're talking about Depot
Bay to Rose Lodge.
I have no problem with that. I guess a comment I should make is, first I'll ask a question, and that is, Sandy, are you comfortable with 2 and 4?
Sure, I think we should try that.
2 and 3.
2 and 3, I mean.
Yeah, 2 and 3.
Lower it to 5 and go.
With the quorum issue resolved also, I think, that really was a stickler in everybody's craw, too. So, with those two things, I think we've got a much, much better shot. This committee really, really is interested in going forward. They just need some more bodies to make this work.
Do you think that you can draw more from the Taft district in order to get more interest that way?
Yes.
Okay.
We already got one extra person just from a little change recently.
Okay, then I think it makes sense, but I think we probably need to do this with all of our committees.
Right. I think that's...
Can I read what I believe the consensus is now? Okay. Is the first sentence remains the same as proposed. The Arts Committee shall consist of 5 members representing a broad perspective of arts and community interests appointed by the mayor with the consent of the City Council. The second sentence will now read, at least 2 of the members must be residents of the city, period. And then the remainder remains the same, which is 3 of the members may be residents of the Taft district. So there's really only just those 2 changes, 7 to 5 and 4 to 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Council, all right?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So with that, I think I've fully read into the record the change.
Yeah.
So I'd ask the same thing, if you could approve first reading and ask that second reading be set for June 10th and allow the submission of any written comments up to 5 p.m. on June 5th.
Is there motion? Oh,
do we need a
do
motion?
you need to read any more, or you're
think I've
comfortable,
read it.
you've got everything in there? Okay.
If that's the case, then I would make a motion to approve and keep the record open until June 5th for comment, approve the first reading of the Arts Committee requirements. What is
This was ordinance amending Chapter 2.64 Arts Committee.
And reading for June 10th.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Roll call, please.
Norikis.
Yes.
Sprague.
Yes.
Quant.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Eggleton and Ellingson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy.
Second reading, I'll read again the change so that it's clear, but the next one in your packet will be as you've directed.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Okay, this would then be a time for additional public comments. Seeing, hearing none. Comments from council? Mr. Sprague?
I just want to state that I think the system works. So when the public is involved, there was a comment on a letter that came to us regarding the fact that somebody wasn't able to hear about a public hearing because they weren't notified by the city, but they happened to, by chance, see it in the paper. But they had to scan like mad to find that, and so the suggestion from them was that we put the city logo on the readings, and they're there now, and we got a letter back from those people, and they said they were thanking us for doing that. So the system does work.
Good point, Councilor. We do rely very heavily on citizens to let us know, when things aren't as we would expect. So, it's a good thing to call in. Gordy, comments?
I don't have anything. I think
say is I hope heard that we do need people on some of these committees, and we'd like them to come down and volunteer.
Good point. Yes. Henry?
Ballots are in the mailbox. Vote. Please turn them back in. Participate in your local governments, please.
That's right, the 21st, they're due.
Next Tuesday.
And
Drop offs in City Hall downstairs to the basement. You can drive in, don't have to get wet, don't have to get out of your car. You just drop your right in the box. No postage needed.
Councilor Ryan?
More to add.
All right. Councilor Gary?
Well, there's an election coming up.
You're not running, so you're okay. Yeah.
I better get with it.
Any comments? Nothing? You're all right? He must be okay. Councilor Norikis?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Let me, for the public, you're going to start seeing some action on the GAP, effective tomorrow. This is ODOT contractors will be doing some drilling in the highway and along the highway in anticipation of making improvements to that area. It'll be all week and various times, but one shouldn't be alarmed. It might even be interesting. I'm looking at maps that show all the drill points. Must be some kind of core drilling. So I'm going to provide this information to the city information desk because I'm just confident somebody's going to be calling in. And that way we'll be able to share it one more time. Also, a reminder that you can pick up the tsunami maps. Would encourage everyone to do that. And it's important that you open the maps to know where you are at all times. Look for the green, because that means you're out of the zone. Open the maps. I'm betting it will be an issue.
I have my map, but I can't figure it out.
Now, actually, I'm going to show you guys, the maps are nice. I even have an app on this phone of this same map, so I can click on and see where I am whenever I'm up and down the coast and know exactly where I need to run. So I would, well, even the earthquake, I'm going to make it a habit. So I would encourage people to take their own responsibility. It's up to them. And again, reminding citizens, we don't need an overload of the dispatch center as to asking the questions, am I in a zone? You need to know that now. Any other?
I just wanted to apologize. I appreciate your tolerance that I jumped around on the first readings and the public hearings. I apologize for that.
That's all right.
Kind of like just the way I'm used to doing it.
I think you did a good job.
We'll get you trained yet.
One of the things I really like is to do an ordinance on two readings. In the past, I can recall times when I actually asked council for one of its members to vote no, so that it could just simply come for a second reading. I was unaware till tonight that we can automatically do a second reading, and I think on a non-emergency ordinance, that really makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And again, thanks to the media for getting the word out on topics so people do see and come. So we're helping it. With that, going to call it an evening. Thank you.